Hello, Scaredy Cats, it's me, Scaredy Matt. If you're new here, you should know that this is the third video in a series of reviews of the House franchise of feature films. And right now, you might be leaping out of your chair in excitement saying, they made more House movies? And no, I'm not referring to the 1977 film House, which owns Bones, but rather the 1986 film, which objectively sucks. So far, I've hated all of the movies in this franchise. Will House 3 break that trend? Sort of. It's a very bad movie, like way worse than the first one, on par with the second one, I would say. The advantage that I think it has over both, though, is that it's trying so hard to be a sincere horror movie that the shoddiness makes it funny instead of embarrassing. Horror done badly is funnier than comedy done badly, which hurts to watch. It hurts my brain and heart. House 3 was intended to kickstart a new franchise following the movie's villain, Max Jenkins is the name of that scary man. And if you've seen the movie, you understand how misguided this is. So, while it was still called House 3 internationally, in the States it was given the completely uninspired and meaningless title, The Horror Show. What does that have to do with the movie? Well, it's a horror movie, so that's why. To be fair, House 3 wouldn't have made much sense as a title either. I mean, most of the action takes place in a house, but like, that's true of a lot of movies. The main characters just live in a house, like people tend to do. Whatever you call it, House 3 wants so desperately to be a Nightmare on Elm Street. You can practically feel the boardroom looking over the director's shoulder and telling them to add more Freddy-style transformations and quips. For some reason, the killer spirit is personified by the house's furnace. You know, like how Freddy is associated with furnaces because he burned to death? Jenkins shouldn't be the furnace, he's an electricity monster, he should be... Let's just get into it. Let me describe the plot of this movie until I get to the point where you realize I don't actually have to do that. So Detective Lucas McCarthy, played by Lance Henriksen, an actor you've actually heard of, is having PTSD nightmares of the time he apprehended the notorious serial killer, Meat Cleaver Max. He runs through a haunted house diner with all sorts of spooks and scares. Max has torsoed his partner, who dies in McCarthy's arms. Then he finally finds Max, and Max is meant to be intimidating, I guess, but he just looks like Bill Bailey to me. All I see is a big nerd in a trench coat with a dorky little beard. Nothing about him is scary, and I feel like I could kick his ass no problem, even though he's probably got 1.5 feet on me. And I'm a weak little baby boy. And it certainly doesn't help that he laughs like this. That's not a one-time little laugh either. He does it constantly throughout the movie. How am I supposed to be scared of this nerd? He laughs literally like a cartoon nerd. Why on earth would they make him laugh like this? And I just have to remind you, this killer was meant to be the star of a new franchise. Anyway, Max has a hostage and demands that McCarthy disarms, which he does, and Max cuts the little girl's head off with a meat cleaver in one swoop. And then they tussle, and Max is caught. And through his dream powers, which sometimes he has, Max tricks McCarthy into choking his wife to make him seem unstable. It'll be important later, but also not really important later because nothing about this film story relates to anything else in the film story. Anyway, it's the day of Max's execution, and he's taking it well. He takes a lot of juice, and it makes him horny?
All that did was give me a hard on.
Okay. So he breaks out, and he rushes McCarthy and tells him he'll be back to get him. Also present is an electricity scientist who examines the corpse later for some reason, and a bunch of spooky stuff starts happening. What's going on? It's a ghost. You already know it's a ghost, obviously. Just gonna skip over a third of the movie now because it's boring, but just know that Max does a bunch of magic stuff and kills McCarthy's daughter's greasy boyfriend. At Jenkins' apartment, and just... why did they name the character who's supposed to be scary Jenkins? Like, it's All I can think about is Velma from Scooby-Doo saying Jinkies. Like, this is the guy that's supposed to be the head of the friend. Anyway, at Jenkins' apartment, the electricity scientist explains that the electric chair allows Max to exit the material plane because, you see, evil is made of electricity. And that sounds like a joke that I'm making. It is, in fact, the stated conceit of the film.
The electrocution, it allowed him to move from the material plane. When I was at Columbia, I was working on a theory of pure evil as a form of electromagnetic energy, an electricity of evil. That's why I got interested in Jenki. He was the purest form of evil available for close scientific observation.
Why don't you cut the bullshit?
Okay, but then how come other serial killers or evil people don't become Freddy's when they're electrocuted? Well, obviously, it's because Jenkins practiced on an electric chair at home to build up his tolerance to electrocution. Once again, none of this is a joke I'm making. That's all in the movie.
This is an electric chair. He was practicing. You know, like taking snake venom to build up his immunity.
Like, at this point, do you even care about the rest of the plot? Do I need to keep going? The whole thing is a hastily constructed excuse to construct a Freddy-style monster. But they don't need to do any of that. He could have just been a ghost. Like, we're already used to the idea of people becoming ghosts. That's a very standard thing in horror movies. Ghosts can do all sorts of magic stuff. That's fine. This complicated mythology just makes the movie very silly without really adding anything. Like, aside from being vulnerable to being electrocuted, Jenkins is just a ghost. He's a ghost with ghost powers. Why not have just made him an evil wizard or something? Give him a Horcrux. What does it matter? Every other movie with a monster like this figures out a very simple way. Oh, he was into black magic. You just put some chicken bones in his apartment. You're done. That's all you gotta do. Honestly, the baffling decisions in this movie are the only thing that make it entertaining. It's just so off-kilter. Like, it's so close to knowing what it wants to do, but it's completely let down in execution. Like, the killer is a turkey in one scene. How does getting electrocuted give him the power to turn into a turkey? Doesn't matter. It's all just magic, except it's not. It's electricity powers. This feels like a movie a child who really liked slasher movies would make. It sort of grasps the tropes of the genre, but doesn't get why any of them work. Like, they know a slasher should have a unique weapon, for example, so they really draw attention to Max's meat cleaver. But they don't seem to grasp anything about storytelling or setting a tone. Like, why is the lead character, Lance Henriksen, a grizzled police detective? That's not a very vulnerable character for a slasher to stalk. Why does the killer do little bits? Is it just because Freddy does? There's all sorts of little asides, like how even before becoming an electricity ghost, Jenki seems to be able to reopen a wound on McCarthy's chest in his dreams that never gets explained. And like, that makes sense when Freddy does it. His whole thing is dream powers. But as far as I can tell, the only reason to do it in this movie is to like, kind of subtly, subconsciously reinforce that like, remember Nightmare on Elm Street? This movie's like that. It hits that exact sweet spot in that it's like, competently made. None of the actors phone it in. There's plenty of fun violence and effects, and it's all just dumb as a bag of hammers. I don't think I could tell you with a straight face that I enjoyed this movie. It's too long, and most of it is boring. But there are plenty of laugh-out-loud absurd moments that might make it a decent, so-bad-it's-good movie to watch with some friends while having some drinks or whatever. That's why I don't really want to go over too much of the plot, because so much of this movie you should just experience for yourself while drunk. You know, like if we're ever able to see our friends again. I don't know, maybe I'm just a huge contrarian. This is the closest I've come to enjoying a house movie so far. The one that absolutely nobody likes. Is it possible that my brain has simply imploded, leaving behind nothing but the smoking wreck of what was once a human consciousness after having forced myself to watch House 2, the second story? Anyway, next week we're going to cover House 4, which is somehow the only entry in the series to go direct to video. Everyone hates that one too, so I have some hope for it.
You have reached the voicemail box of
Scaredy Matt. Hey Matt, it's Bobby Duke, the Babadook. You bit that you thought of while high on marijuana edibles. Look, I'm not going to be able to record an outro for you today. You're going to have to ask someone else to tell people to like and subscribe. My dog's not doing too good. I gotta take him to the vet, and pretty beaten up about it. That's right. This bit is going into drama now. You're sad about the stupidest bit in the world, aren't you? Anyway, Yeah, I can't do the outro, so this is confidential, by the way. Please don't put this on the channel. That would be a huge violation of my trust. I'll catch you next week. Okay, kisses. Bye.